What it do? Your boy Daru on another episode on Therapy Hub, brought from me to you. We're here to transform the mind and heal the soul. This is going to be a 10-part series and panel for this conversation that we're going to have based on gun violence. Now, the topic is called Before the Trigger, the conversation we need to have. But I just want to make something very clear today. This conversation is not going to be about glorifying violence. It's not going to be about taking sides. It's not going to be about politics, politicians. It's going to be about people. What it do, what it do, what it do. Your boy Daru on another episode of Therapy Hub, from me to you. We're here to transform the mind and heal the soul. So welcome back. This is the place where we have conversations many people avoid, but conversations that primarily changes lives. Okay. But before we go any further, I just want to say a special thank you to today's, I want to say, I would like to say today's episode is probably supported by two great local businesses. Now, the first one is Bark and Scratch, of course, located at 2404 Danforth Avenue, and that's in East York. Bark and Scratch carries pet food, treats, toys, accessories, grooming products, and other essential supplies to help your pets stay happy and healthy. So if you use promo code Amptv Canada, you will receive 10% off all pet supplies and accessories. So be sure to go down there at 2404 Danforth Avenue and say Amptv sent you so you can get 10% off all pet supplies and accessories. Now, we would also like to thank Avenue Apparel, which is my clothing line that has relaunched and it's doing really well. Now, this is your destination for unique clothing, custom apparel, and fresh streetwear designs. Okay. Now, if you shop Avenue Apparel online at www.theavstore.com, and you'll discover clothing to help you stand out and represent you properly. Also, back to school is coming, so there's probably some things that you can get your get your kids for back to school. Now we're gonna have a poster and advertisement going up soon, where you can get a full outfit for less than $100. So if you shop at our store, you can get a sweater, t-shirt, pants, a hat, and primarily even possibly even some shoes for no less than $120, $130. But if you want to get a hat, shirt, and pants, for sure you can get that for $100. All right. Now we're gonna dive right into our less than $100 or for $100. Okay. Now we're gonna dive into our conversation here. In our last episode, Before the Trigger, we talked about what happens before violence takes place, okay, and why prevention even matters. So today we're going to make that conversation, we're going to take that conversation one step deeper, okay? Now we're going to talk about anger, and not the anger that we see, but the anger that we don't. Now this is going to help me a lot too. And I always say this every episode, that Therapy Hub is a place where, there's no judgment. You can come here if you want, ask questions. If you have anything that you want to talk about privately, you can DM me or you can email us at amptvcanada@gmail.com. And, we can set up a time to talk. And because therapy is about learning how to cope with situations. Now, therapy is something that, a lot of people avoid and say, oh, therapy doesn't help me. It never helped. Because we think that, when we get therapy, that everything's just going to go away. And that's not what therapy is about. Therapy is learning how to cope with what's going on, because things are going to happen all the time. And we're going to talk about this during this episode. And so therapy is just a kind of like coping strategies to how to get through it. And, primarily it helps you because it prevents you from reacting a different way, prevents you from reacting in a negative way. Okay. Now, we know that anger is often the emotion that everyone notices, right? Everybody sees anger. When you get angry, everyone sees it. but very rarely is it the emotion that started the problem. And a lot of times, because you don't get angry right away, when for no reason. If you do, you're just an angry person, and we'd have to fix that. But for the most part, anger, comes before. All right, and it's an emotion um, that doesn't start the problem. It's an emotion that kind of carries out the problem, and it could make the problem bigger. So we're gonna learn some different, you know, areas and definitions of what anger is and where it actually stems from. Okay. Now, the first question we have to ask ourselves is, what is anger? All right. Many people don't know what is anger. They tend to think it's just, something that they see when people are violent, which is true, but we don't know what it is. So this is going to help us kind of determine or help us with it. Okay. Not just anybody out there listening, but this is going to help me as well. All right. And I'll tell you a reason. I'll tell you another story today because I like to tell stories on here. Now, anger isn't always the enemy. Okay. It isn't the enemy. And we have to believe that or not. Anger is a natural human emotion. Everybody gets angry. Everybody, gets mad, gets upset. What I've learned and what I've read through, different books and different authors, and even just dealing with my own personal experiences, is that it tells us something's unfair, right? It it's something that hurts us. So it tells us like, oh, you're being hurt, or there's something not right with this situation. Somebody crossed the boundary, or something crossed the boundary. The problem isn't feeling angry. The problem is kind of like how we react to it, or is how we react to it. Now, I've noticed this in many, many different situations with myself is, you know, I can get angry, but the moment I show somebody else that anger, then I show how I respond to it. Now that can become a weakness, and I'm going to get into that because when we show people our anger, sometimes it allows people to know your weakness and allows people to know what really gets you angry. They're going to know what pushes your buttons and how to push your buttons. So if we can work on now not allowing that, I think we'll be better at managing our anger. Okay. Now, we know that the problem is how we respond to it, right? Because there's some people explode, some people shut down. I'm like that. I just don't want to deal with anybody, and then I eventually explode after. Okay, and some people even smile while carrying anger for years. They have anger in them. They may not even like you, and anytime they see you, they got a smile on their face, but behind that is anger, and they're not really smiling. It's kind of like a fake smile. Now eventually that pressure though has to go somewhere. So as much as people try to avoid it, as much as people try to push it away, or they try to, they don't want to deal with it, they have to, because it goes somewhere. But the question lies beneath the anger, right? When it comes to this situation. And the question is, what's causing us to react this way? What we need to know is anger, like I said, isn't an enemy. It's information. It's something giving us, as I said before, it's telling us something. It's letting our mind and body know that something doesn't feel right. And I got a question, actually. Right? Have you ever got angry and then felt like it wasn't worth your energy? So you got really angry, and then after you got angry, you're like, why did I get angry? Right? Why did I get upset about this situation? Why did I go through this situation? I could have or why did I react this way? Sorry. I could have treated or handled this situation a lot different. And the reason is because what I mentioned before in regards to your mind, body, and your body telling you something, it's telling you that something is not right. So even after you react to it, it's still going to indicate to you, even before it does it before and it does it after. But sometimes we don't listen to the indications before, we let the emotion carry it out. But then after, when the emotion carries it out, we tend to sit back and think as well too, like, wow, was this really worth it? Why did I really get angry? And then we tend to kind of like rekindle our thoughts and our emotion. But sometimes it's too late when we do that. Okay. Now, the question isn't why I'm angry or why am I angry. The better question is to say, or to ask yourself, is what is my anger trying to tell me? Because if we continue to say, hey, why am I angry? Why am I angry? You're not gonna know how to fix the anger. You're not gonna be able to tell yourself, okay, why is this, or ask yourself, why is this anger, or what is this anger telling me? What is it indicating for me to do right now? Is it telling me to walk away? Is it telling me that I just need to um, handle the situation better, um, or do they want a reaction out of it? Right. So you have to ask yourself that. Now, I've been using this method lately, and it's actually been helping me tone down my emotions and think before I react. The other day, I was going to a customer of mine's, and this is a huge example. The other day, I was going to a customer of mine's, and when I got to the customer's house, sorry, not to the customer's house. When I got to the customer, before I got to the customer's building, I was standing just outside my vehicle, behind my vehicle, and there was another parking, because on the street you can park on the side streets, or not on the side streets, on the side of the street. So there was another parking space available before me, and I was waiting behind my vehicle to cross the street to go to my customer. And before I did that, before I could get across the street, another vehicle kind of like, because there were still cars coming, another vehicle kind of came, and he kind of like drove in very fast to park, and then like stomped on his brakes like instantly, just before he seen me, and then like poked his head out. And I was like, hey man. And I kind of had to like jump into the road after this, right? Because I didn't know if he was driving into me or what was going on. He was coming really fast. So I kind of like went onto the road, and he's still looking at me as I go onto the road. And I'm like, hey man, can you just slow down a little bit? Because I didn't really know what he was doing. He's like, oh, I'm not going to hit you. Don't worry. I'm not going to hit you. But in my mind, I'm thinking, buddy, like I don't even know you. So I can't trust the fact that you're not going to hit me. Like I'm just like, I literally had to jump into the road. And I'm like, that's fine. You know what I mean? Like, cool. And I walked off. And when I walked off, I walked across the street to my customer, and I started setting up my getting ready for my job and that type of thing. And when I got ready, or sorry, when I turned around and noticed where he was going, he was actually walking into my customer's store. And he was like looking at me, like trying to like get me to engage eye contact with him and try to get me to engage more and more into an argument with him. And I said what I had to say, and I kind of like just started working. So I guess he was telling my customer our interaction. So when I walked in the store, he's just like staring at me, and I said, hey sir, are you the gentleman that was driving just a minute ago? And he goes, yeah. I go, okay. I go, listen, I don't know what your I don't know what's your problem, but I know you're still, you're continuing to look at me and that type of thing. And you told I don't know if you told them anything, but it seems like you told my customer the problem that we had. I'm just letting you know that I'm not upset. I just letting you know that you were driving excessively fast, and I had to run into the street. So that's all I was saying to you. I wasn't saying anything derogatory, or I wasn't trying to have an argument with you or anything like that. And he was like, oh, okay, well, that's not what the case was. I was, and he was still trying to justify his speed. And I was just like, okay, cool. So I can kind of see he wanted to like argue a little bit, and I just wasn't having it. So it was within my decision to react to it and get angry with him and to continue to argue, or to like be calm, say what I had to say, and then just let it go. So I did do that. So I'm actually proud of myself I want to give myself a round of applause and a pat on my back because, you know, sometimes, you know, I would have been like, hey, like, bro, you almost hit me, bro. Like, you know, but I realized that, you know, it may have been a misunderstanding. I know he wasn't actually trying to hit me, but the way he was driving in, it kind of made me go into the road a little bit, and it had me worried. That's all. So, um, when I explained that to him, he wasn't understanding. So I explained it again. He left the store, and then, you know, my customer asked me what happened, and I explained it to him, and he was like, "Yeah, no, no, that's not cool at all, right?" So, but I didn't let it get, you know, I didn't let it get me down. I didn't let it, you know, stop my day, or or sorry, interrupt my day, or, you know, get me upset. I just continued on with the day, and you know, I use that as a winning experience. So that was great, and so I just wanted to share that with everybody because, you know, like I said, and what I'm been talking about here is it's all about how you respond and how you react. People always want to get a response out of you. People always want to get you to react a certain way. So it's up to you how you do that and how you carry that out, right? What is really underneath anger? Let's ask ourselves that as well. Um, because many of us were taught to, you know, hide sadness because it, you know, it made you look weak. We hide fear. We hid fear because we didn't want to appear vulnerable. Or I mentioned in the last episode, sometimes we fear to respect. If we respect somebody, we fear them, or we fear them. And So we got to understand that. So those emotions found another way to come out, and that way was anger. Right? When we don't deal with these things differently, then, you know, sometimes we may deal with a situation or not deal with the situation, and we're hiding all these things, and then when it's really time for us to show our true colors, we explode, and we show it through anger. Okay. Now, psychologists often say anger is a secondary emotion, meaning there's usually something that that's underneath that, right? Or underneath it. It may be fear, it may be rejection, it may be shame, grief, loneliness, embarrassment, betrayal, feeling disrespected, and that's where a lot of, you know, wars happen, and you know, conflicts happen between men because men are very prideful. So disrespect is something huge that um, that turns into that can turn into violence, severe violence. Now, many people say they're angry, but they're really what they're really saying is that they've been hurt. And I think when we need to kind of like know the difference between being hurt and saying that we're angry, because, like, you know, anger and being hurt, you know, or sorry, being hurt comes from, you know, or getting angry, sorry, comes from being hurt, right? So when we don't deal with the hurt, the anger keeps growing, right? So I think beneath the anger, these things we have is what we have to deal with, so that way we don't have to worry about getting angry, or, you know, us losing our cool in situations when, you know, we face, or when we encounter all the above that I mentioned. Okay. Now, the reality of it all is that hurt will and can happen. So, like I said before, therapy, people always say, well, therapy doesn't help. It doesn't help. It's never helped. And I think we say that because we think that things are going to go away once we have therapy. Everything's going to get better. Things will get better, or sorry, the way you cope and your coping strategies and the way you learn to deal with them will get better. But the problems that happen in life and things that occur day to day will keep happening, right? It's a part of life. People tend to hurt you even without them even knowing. Sometimes they don't even know that they're hurting you and they're hurting you. So it's back to us again, dealing and learning how to deal with it, right? Now, there's a very important question that I want to ask, and if we have our Q&A, if anybody wants to stick around, and for those who are tapped into our live on Instagram, or if you did tap into our live on Instagram, we are leaving some time for a Q&A on our Instagram. This episode will be on our will be posted tomorrow on our therapy hub, um, on our therapy hub, on therapy hub, sorry, on Amptv. But today, after the episode, we're going to leave some room for a Q&A. So if anybody wants to have any discussions about what we're discussing, if you have an opinion, or if you want to correct me on anything, be sure to come online, and we can do that and wrap that up. All right. Now, there's a question I want to ask, and the question is why people react differently. Okay. Now, there's a question. This question is serious because I ask myself all this all the time, and I want to ask, like, have you ever wondered why two people can experience the exact same situation, yet one will walk away from the situation? Because I've had people walk away from me when I'm angry, right? And they just, all right, whatever, bro, and they walk away. And I had to sit back and think about that and realize, hey, maybe that person, you know, they may not react to violence. They may not even resort to violence. Their anger isn't only about today, and your anger isn't only about today. It's about yesterday. Also, it's about the trauma, the childhood trauma, the bullying, the abuse, the neglect. So those things can be different. You guys could be, have experienced two different walks of life in regards to these things: constant stress, financial pressure, relationship problems, mental health struggles. Every unresolved experience adds another brick to the wall. Okay. Eventually, what happens is one small disagreement knocks the whole wall down. Okay. And I'm sure many people have seen this happen with, frontline experience. But here's something that I really wanted to get into, and what I really want to talk about also, that many of us kind of overlook. Now, I love social media because I've reconnected with family members, and my daughter, and my son, all through social media. So there can be some positive and some negatives to it, or some positives to it, but there's also negatives to it as well. Okay. Today's social media, other than reconnecting and that type of thing, it fuels anger every single day. People flick their phones, right? And then people compare their lives. We talked about this, and I coached my viewers on this on one episode when it comes to competing with others and not worrying about competing with others until you've fully fixed yourself. Social media does that, and it tends to cause a huge mental health strain and causes stress on people when you flick your phone every day and you see people living all this great life, taking vacations, and you're still struggling. People argue also with strangers on Instagram and social media. This is one thing that I just can't understand. I stay away from that part because a lot of people that are on following me on social media, no disrespect, I love my followers, but I don't know you personally. A lot of you haven't seen me personally, or Many of you have, many of you haven't. Many of you haven't even like encountered with me or sit down and spoke with me or know anything about me. You just know what I post and what you see on Instagram and what I'm promoting and what I'm advertising. So when it comes to arguing, and there's a lot of problems happen too, and a lot of beefs happen this way, and people are arguing with each other on Instagram. I just want to encourage our youth and everybody else out there is like, don't argue and don't fight on social media, and don't, especially and engaging with strangers and worrying about what this person's saying and that person's saying, because these people are strangers. They have no clue who you really are. And I think it's effortless, and it's um it's a waste of energy to argue with anybody who you don't know, especially a stranger, right? And that's another thing that will can bother somebody is if you meet somebody, or say you just run into somebody on the street or whatever the situation is, in the mall or the gym or whatever it is, and you don't know them, and you get into an altercation with them, and then you let that altercation take it to a next level. There's many people sitting in prison because of this, and for the rest of their lives, and they're thinking, like, why did I even give that person that energy? That's the emotion that's going through your brain or going through your thoughts, because you never knew that person. You're like, this person, I didn't know this person through a hole in the wall, and I let this person get me through a whole bag of mess. That's something that I pray every day to avoid, because that's probably the worst feeling that you can probably that you can have when you're dealing with anger and emotions and that type of thing. All right, with reacting to somebody else. People also chase validation. All right, that's a big one. People are constantly exposed to violence and negativity, because when you chase validation, you are also you're always concerned on how people are going to view you, and how you know and how important you may feel that you are, or how important that you may feel that you may are, that how important that you may try to make you appear. Okay, sometimes we're carrying anger that doesn't even belong to us. That's another one. Sometimes we're carrying anger from somebody else. We're carrying anger from friends. Where that has a lot to do with what's going on right now in the streets, and what's going on with our young generation, and a lot of them they're picking up problems that they don't even know. A lot of these beefs that they're into are generational beefs, and they're just stuck in it because you know they're carrying anger, and they're carrying all this guilt that don't even belong to them. I think if we take some time to look at that as well, and we view that as you know a mental health issue, I think that we will learn to work on it a little bit better, and we'll be able to deal with the root cause with that a little bit better, because in life everybody has problems of their own. Now, not to say that you can't carry a burden for a brother. The Bible tells us, the Quran tells us, it's important to do that for people that are that we love, and people that are around us, our neighbors. However, you're not going to carry a burden that's going to destroy you, that can ruin your family's lives and ruin other families' lives. Carrying burdens are helping and getting better. When you carry someone's burden, you're helping them achieve, not get worse. Okay. So I want everybody to remember that as well, because that's also very, very, very important. Okay. So once again, to the youth out there, and to everybody that's listening on our Instagram live, if you're popping in, hello, and thank you for tapping in. We're going to do a Q&A about this topic later. So if you want to stick around and ask some questions, or ask me any questions in regards to what's happening with our youth, or even as adults, what's happening to us, um, with the psychology of anger, and knowing the psychology of anger and what anger really is. Tap in after the show. All right. This episode is not live. This is going to be on our Sunday Therapy Hub segment. Now, another question is, how do we break the cycle? Okay. Because this is something that happened, and I just explained it. Like, I'm always answering my own statements here, and things that my own points here, because we talk about generational beef, right? And a lot of the youth, they're picking up beef that they don't even know. Like, a lot of this stuff is generational, going back, like my time, okay, and a little bit before my time. So we are carrying hurt and anger and all these things in our bodies, and we're filling up space in our minds for things that don't even belong to us and that don't even need to be there. And that's a huge, that's very important for our own health in general. Okay. If you want to stay healthy and you want to live long, stress is probably the number one thing to avoid, or to try to avoid, and to keep at a minimum. Okay. Because life is stressful. Everyone's going to stress, but to be able to keep it at a minimal and be able to deal with it, it that's all we need to know. And once again, for those who are tapping into our Instagram, we talked about therapy, and some people always say, well, therapy's not working. The reason why it's not working is because we're thinking that when we use therapy, or if we have therapy, or we get therapy, that the problems are just going to go away, and they're not going to go away. Therapy is a coping strategy. It's a tool and how to deal with anger and problems that we're going through, anything that we're going through. Okay. So once again, how do we break the cycle? Okay. Now the question is, how do we break the cycle? It's, how do we stop the anger from controlling us? And how do we stop the anger from letting us think a certain way? That's also controlling us, because it controls our mind as well. We're going to get into some topics about a conscious mind and a subconscious mind, and the difference between a conscious mind and a subconscious mind, because the subconscious mind can sometimes overpower the actual conscious mind, but the conscious mind is what we need to use. Okay. Now we need to start asking yourself and ourselves, I'm included, what am I really feeling? Right? Take a pause before reacting, and walking away if necessary. Another tool I've been using is talking to someone that I trust. I don't trust many people, but there are people out there that I do trust, and I do reach out to them. Okay, go to therapy. Okay, remember, we're talking about stopping the anger from controlling us. Now, therapy is huge. If you need to watch this show, this show will have different topics throughout, the year and throughout years to come, on on different situations that we go through as human beings. So I'm sure that there's going to be something there that you can relate to. And I hope you do, and I hope that it helps you. Okay. Praying. Now, many have different thoughts about praying, because some are religious, some are not, some are spiritual. So I do advise anybody, before we talk about any religion or anything like that, praying to me also can mean reaching to your spiritual connection. Now, I'm a very spiritual person. I burn sage, I light incense, I light candles. For I wouldn't say for a male, I shouldn't say that, but for like a young man, myself at 43 years old, my spiritual connection has been getting more and more deeper. And I'm starting to really dive into my connections with my spiritual world. And it's been working with me. I've been communicating with my spirits, and I've been engaging with them, and I've things have been working very well. It's been keeping the evil away, and it's been helping me really understand my spirit, my spiritual connection, and where I am with that. Okay. Exercising is great. This is something else that I do. I work out a lot. And I want to let people know that exercising will decrease stress, and it will take away a lot of problems that you are having. Now, it may not make you feel or make things 100% better, but it will definitely help with coping, because when you go to the gym, that's going to be your focus now on, instead of worrying. So you're going to get up in the morning and say, you know what? I'm going to go to the gym, and you're taking care of yourself. That's what makes everybody, I think any human being in life, um, when once you start taking care of yourself, and are in if or when you're taking care of yourself, you feel great. You feel like you feel rich. I don't think any money in the world can replace the feeling of feeling healthy and looking healthy. So exercising it's a huge recommendation on my part. Writing things down, something that I've been doing as well, and reading a lot. I want to really stress to the younger generation with reading. I know it's easy for you guys to just look things up and to go online and to find the answers to things, and that's fine. But to really know knowledge, and to really have knowledge, and to be able to use it and exercise it every day. Reading is the best tool, the best mechanism that you can do. It's helped me become so intelligent. It's helped me understand how to read between the lines, and really take some time to study and work on whatever I need to work on. Self-help books, guys. I know many people are like, well, they can't help me. That's fine, but look for something out there that may relate to a situation that you're going through. There's many books that title a lot of things that happen in life. So maybe look for that and see where you can find yourself on that side. Learn to communicate before frustration becomes rage. This is something I am continuing to work on now. I'll keep it 100. Um, Communication for me is huge, because I notice this world, there's not that much communication between people. I think people are um, you know, with social media and everything else going on in the with the economy, the expenses. I think people are less are able to communicate with each other, and they're not, or I should say, yeah, people are less are to communicate with each other. But what they're also doing is they're limiting their time to communicate, right? So I think people like, we need to just take a little bit of time to slow down and communicate with those who we need to communicate with, and I think we'll be fine. And I think most of it, majority, I think a lot of people in life have this and are going through this, or have done this before. So if you are, pat on the back and congrats to you, and help somebody else that that's going through it and that may need your help. Okay. Or may need the help. Now, strength isn't about losing control. Strength is keeping control when every part of you wants to explode. So this is why I say, I said also about you, when you show people your greatest anger point, or what gets you really angry. I believe that you're showing your weakness. You're allowing them to know what your weakness is, and what gets you upset. If we can learn to like block that, I think that would be a very dangerous tool to use in a situation where somebody is trying to get you angry, or trying to get you to engage in a conflict. I think by learning learning strength and learning, weaknesses, and learning our knowing our strengths and our weaknesses. I think that would help us a lot too. And I think as people, we tend to confuse the two. And always just remember, when you're going into a job or you have a job interview, I think the best thing to tell your employer is, if they ask you what your weakness is, you are what your strength is, you tell them, you replace it with the weakness, or you replace your weakness, sorry, with a strength. Okay, so maybe sometimes you work a little bit too much, that becomes a weakness, but it's a strength. So I think, if we use that day to day in life, just like we're going for a job, or having an interview for anything, I think that, if we treat our lives like that, thinking before we speak, and how we engage, and practicing the way we engage in that conversation, so it's like an interview. I think we need to treat life like an interview, right? And if you agree, please put it in the comments, and let me know. Um, Now, I want everyone to listen. I want everybody that's listening, and also everybody that's listening on our live as well, um, to think about these questions. Okay, what usually triggers your anger? What emotion is hidden underneath it? And this is for myself as well, because I got a lot of homework to do this week. And this is homework for those who are watching. This is reflection. Okay, so um, I want everybody to really take some time, and to even take some notes down, and to write, or take some notes down, and write down what I'm saying. We got to ask, what usually triggers our anger? What emotion is hiding underneath it? Have we forgiven the people who hurt you? And I just forgave somebody that hurt me, and I thought they had forgiven me. Everything was okay, and then recently, when they see me head down, don't want to say hi to me. So I just came to the realization that this person just doesn't like me. All right. So um I know that they truly haven't forgiven me. They said that they've forgiven me, but they they may have. They just maybe don't want to communicate with me. That's fine. That's fine too. But in my mind, in my heart, I know that I've forgiven them. So it's allowed me to move on. Okay, regardless if they've forgiven me or not. So we gotta know that, right? And we gotta understand and know, if, or the people that we're dealing with, and if and we got to be able to forgive them, regardless of what they've done to us, or whatever the situation is. Even if you don't want to communicate with them, like what this young lady's probably doing with me. It's a young lady. I'm okay with it, right? They can move on. I can move on. I've forgiven them. They've hurt me, so um I realized that it happened, and I'm over it. Okay. The other question we got to ask is, are you reacting to today's problem or yesterday's pain? Because sometimes we're even mad when we get up in the morning about a situation, and then we go out into the community, we go into the street, and if anybody's requesting to join, hang tight. When we're finished my segment here, I'm going to tap in for on our Instagram live. I see that there's I think a request there. All right. Um, are you reacting to today's problem or yesterday's pain? So, like I said, many of us, we get upset the day before or the same morning, and we're still carrying that anger, and we go out the next day, and you know are the same day, and then we get into an altercation with somebody, and then that's our reaction. We respond to it, and then our anger, the reaction of our anger, takes another level. Okay. Now, as long as we understand that, if we can, or as long as we can learn to fix the problem that we have, or whatever the problem that we're having, before we go into another day or another problem, or before, are we going to another situation that can take us into another problem, I think we'll be okay. Now, what would change if you choose healing instead of revenge? It's another question that we got to ask. Because as people, we're very revengeful, we're very spiteful. We want to get at everybody that hurts us. We want to, you know, we want to, get, retaliation for, if people do anything to our family or whatever it is. We're always ready for revenge whenever somebody hurts us, versus us actually healing from it. I think if we use the healing process before the revenge process, I think the revenge process, I think that deals with the revenge. I think healing is revenge. And we talked about this in my other episodes with winning. And when once you're taking care of yourself and you're not worried about other people, you are winning. And you don't let anybody intimidate you or let you feel any which way that you're not. And once you can get that in your mind and get that going and flowing and knowing that you're winning, nothing can stop you. So I think if we use our healing coping strategies and our therapy strategies that we're using on Therapy Hub, I think that that shows revenge, and I think that's a better version of revenge versus violence. Okay. Now, before I close, I just want to say anger doesn't make you a bad person. Okay. Ignoring it is. All right. Or sorry, my correction. Anger doesn't make you a bad person. Ignoring it, pretending it isn't there, or allowing it to control your decisions, that's where lives begin to change. Let me repeat that. Anger doesn't make you a bad person. Ignoring it, pretending that it isn't there, or allowing it to control your decisions, that's where lives begin to change. Remember, every violent act, every broken relationship, every regret, every, all started with emotion that was understood, that wasn't understood. A lot of it is misunderstanding, and none of us really know deep inside what we've gone through. The more we understand ourselves, I think we're more likely, or less likely, sorry, no, we're less likely to hurt others, to put other at harm, and to put the public at risk. Okay. I want to thank everybody for listening to Therapy Hub today. Thank you for everybody for tapping in our Instagram live as well. I'm Daru. I don't know why I said it like that. I am Daru. I am Daru. And if today's conversation helped you, share it with someone who may need to hear it. Because healing starts with one conversation. I'll see you in the next episode. Peace and love. We'll do one more take for the closing. Thank you for listening to Therapy Hub. I'm Daru. If today's conversation helped you, share it with somebody who may need to hear it, okay? Because we all can help each other. Healing starts with one conversation. I'll see you in the next episode. Peace and love.